All right, gentlemen, we got Google Gemini. So Gemini is their large language model. They are making a whole bunch of integrations with Google Chrome. That's their web browser, right? But this has been a hot space because like Perplexity is talked about is doing a web browser. OpenAI's got a web browser. Anthropic's got some stuff that they're doing in browsers, right? So this is becoming like quite a thing. I'm also reading this week that OpenAI is going to start building solutions for companies to have like always on screen capture for employees so that the AI can train. It's like Cluely. Remember we talked about this a couple weeks ago? They're like talking about doing this now like properly so that the AI can train off of like employees' day-to-day activities and they can train the model, the AI models that way, right? Okay, so what do you guys think? This is my question for you guys. This to me, I think we're starting to see like some insight into where AI is going to go, right? And in particular, the types of like devices that we're going to be using. And I'm putting the browser in there in the device category, right? But it looks like you got phones listening, watches listening. You got the new Meta glasses that came out, right? They have cameras on them that's watching and listening and hearing everything you're saying. You now have web browsers that are going to be recording all the activity that you're doing. You have companies that clearly they record everything that you do on your computer. There's firms like Granola and others that record all your meetings, all the things that you say on your meetings. So like there is no data. Agreed? Like Clint, no data privacy anymore is where we're going towards, right?
None. I mean, what this is this is just at the end of the day, for all the conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat folks, this is the surveillance state.
It's gold.
You know, I mean, take it or leave it. At the end of the day, the data is valuable, and the appetite for data, as Nick and I have talked about, AI. This is where it's going to come to a head in terms of, you know, I would say the public opinion of it is the voracious appetite for data is going to rise exponentially, because that is what it takes to continue to have leaps in terms of its efficacy. And you're going to see, you've already seen boundaries crossed, and you're going to see boundaries continue to be crossed until we all realize that the greatest heist ever conducted on people was the data heist, when we signed over all of our data and the rights to our data without understanding the monetary value of said data. And I think this is just another testament to that.
Okay, so I'm sure we can all agree that big corporations knowing literally everything about us, and probably that's going exponential with all of what we're talking about here, because it's going to be like always on data capture of everything you see, hear, say, type, look at on a computer, all of it, right? But let's just for argument's sake, because we could probably wax philosophical about how crazy that is and maybe not good that is, but maybe we could talk about some of the good things of what will come, right? So like Nick, like there's a whole bunch of AI app companies coming out, right? As you can probably see on PM Insights, and new ones I think coming down the pipe. I think a lot of them will be leveraging this data, right? Or have some kind of like proprietary data set. In this context, we're talking about personal AI data. I haven't seen any companies coming out and doing like a personal AI assistant yet. I'm seeing one or two really small ones, like just starting to emerge, right? But are you familiar with any like kind of personal assistant AI companies that are out there yet?
Sure. I mean, we had a false start probably 2 years ago with Rabbit. If you remember, you sent us all the little
so
3-inch by 3-inch square cases.
It's a great paperweight now.
Yeah,
right?
and that's all it is. It's the nicest, most expensive paperweight I have. But I think you're right. You know, a lot of the AI tooling that we're seeing, the agentic aspects, are really built for work. It's how can I replace a certain aspect of my work if my work screen is going to be recorded? Because I think the AI assistant, as you're kind of describing or alluding to, is going to be harder to achieve. You know, I can get something to work around an Excel spreadsheet a whole lot easier than tell me where the nearest Dairy Queen is, which is highly
Right.
valuable for Nick Fusco, right? If you really think about it,
Right.
I love that stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's a lot harder. But that's where all the wearables, the tracking through the Meta or Google Glass, all of that comes through to learn about what our natural habits are. And maybe it's part of Google Maps, which is better at tracking us now than getting us to our final location. So
Right.
I think doing the personal assistant will be a hell of a lot harder than the work assistant. But
Yeah.
there's no reason why. I mean, everything is moving so fast right now. That's going to be right around the bend. If we could figure out the work stuff, hey, maybe we won't have to work anymore. We were always talking about universal basic income, right? But yeah. We got to chat through that, but it will be around the corner before we know it.
Okay, so to Nick's point, right, Clint? I mean, what you're seeing, I think, on the enterprise side, and I've also been hearing a lot of people talk about these FDE, like forward deploy engineers, where you're like sending a software developer on site to the client site to like help them kind of bridge that last gap, right? That last 5 yards to get something over the. But to Nick's point, though, those are like very specific workflows that are being automated, right, within a company, and which makes sense, and that's intuitive because companies have people that do like the same, like they make the donuts, right? Like every week, every day, they come and whatever the task is or whatever the process is, like someone does that work. So now an AI could do that work, and that repetitive task can be replaced by AI. But like in a personal assistant context, that's, I guess, I mean, I suppose there's some things that we all do, right? And you could probably start to chip away and automate those things. But that would be hard. I think that would be hard to have like a one size fits all solution, right? I mean, we have like, I bet I have a different set of apps on my phone than Nick does, right? As an example. And I kind of view it that way. Like you're still going to have, everyone seems to be very customized. That's going to be hard, I think, to kind of do a proper AI assistant, right?
I mean, that's why you record, right? I mean, I think one of the greatest lessons when you're, I think about like entrepreneurs operating system when you're running a business and you're thinking about setting up the business, all the formation aspects and then the operational aspects of running the business, the tech operations, the products, all the stuff, right? Compliance, legal, finance, etc. Those core functions, those core operating processes, you start off documenting those by just having employees record what they do on a day-to-day basis. And you're trying to get to the meat of the process. I think that's where this adds so much value, is it's really just getting down to recording the necessary things, and then AI will just help you filter that into what are your core processes that you need to run your business successfully. So that's the way I think about it from a corporate perspective. When I think about the AI, my personal assistant now is ChatGPT. Like using the agent, about to fly overseas, asking it what I needed for that. It goes and does all. Then it asks me if it wants to do daily reminders, right? I do my morning routine now is centered, instead of me doing it all on my own. My morning routine, like the things I'm doing that day, they're all automatically delivered to me through ChatGPT now, because I've trained it to say, hey, these are what I want every morning at 7 a.m. Like it might be an uplifting message. It might be like my top things I need to do for the day. It's created me like daily checklists that I need to do to stay productive, one win, one worry, like all these cool little things that it's kind of just learned from me that I gravitate towards. It's now my personal assistant. Helps me with travel bookings, researching planes, like our plane tickets.
So have you like connected it into your email and calendar and other things like that? Or this is just interaction that you've had back and forth?
So on my phone app, it'll just go right to my phone app in the morning, gives me an alert and says your weekly leadership checklist is here or whatever.
Got it.
But
it kind of uploads it.
I'm curious on this though, right? So if I think about two things I do pretty much every day, I don't think it's going to work, and I'll go into what those are in a minute. But when you're interfacing in this realm, you're either interfacing with what's your schedule, or let's say you're doing accounting, you're only dealing with like a Xero or Intuit QuickBooks, and there are only like 24 ways to interface. But let's say that you want to book a restaurant outside of one of the core interfaces like a Yelp or a Google Maps or Toast or whatever you use to book. All of a sudden, that thing has a hard time. And I know that this was showed off in, I think, one of the Apple demos 5 years ago. Watch, we'll call a restaurant and it will do it. But like, if I have to interface with 1 million possible restaurants around the world, that's where this thing starts to get real hard. So like my core routine, what I would love is I cycle to work on a city bike every day. Tell me where the dock is. Because constantly, if I'm racing,
so
I
true.
need to know that there are only 2 docks left and there's a 10-minute gap between me getting there. Those 2 docks are going to be gone. So have the AI tell me the most appropriate path and how hard I need to peg it to get to that dock. And then while I'm doing that, I hate to admit it, I'm ordering coffee at the same time, typically when I pass 60th Street, so that by the time I get to the appropriate dock, I walk into the coffee shop and the coffee's waiting. So if my AI could do that, which I think is like years away, which is hilarious. Right. I want to dock a bike and order a coffee. That's way harder than doing my accounting. But in my world, that's true because it's like, so it's the way you're interfacing and the number of people that want that routine is pretty few. So I don't know, maybe I'm just going tangential on this, but I think that's part of the problem. Like not enough people want the same things when it's your personal life or everybody's not interfacing the same way.
I think that's true. I mean, but to Clint's point, like there could be something in this space where you're recording activity, like it's watching everything you do on your phone and your geolocation and everything else, and kind of starts to dial that in. Perhaps
I want somebody in my ear like a rally driver, like I'm at the freaking dock car, and then you say turn right, left, go right. Like there's one more dock, like get there.
Get there fast, and then motivational messages while you're pedaling to get you to go faster.
I think that's when it starts to become fun because if it's work, it's efficiency, and it helps you do your job either more efficiently, more accurate, what have you. But if it's personal, I personally want something fun, and it's just going to gamify whatever I'm doing for the day, So it's a different world.
As an investor, this is where I'm like obsessing over AI apps. Like I'm more confident about investing into an AI app company that's focused on the enterprise than I am on personal use for all the reasons that we just discussed, right? Like I do think it's going to be easier for a company to force employees to have all of their activity tracked.
Totally.
Like if they have to throw on a pair of Meta glasses and wear it around the office all day long, they probably wouldn't want to do that outside of work, but they'll do it inside of work because the company wants them to do it, right? So fine, I'll wear them, right? You know what I mean? So like I can see companies and employees like buying into that and everything. It's much easier to get the data, and then to probably most importantly, like you guys said, there's just repeatable things that you could do, right? There's one accounting system that the company uses. There's not 50, right? For example, right? So like, those things I think matter in terms of getting kind of good ROI out of AI solutions. So like this is like I don't know. Am I ever never ending quest to kind of like dial in on like what AI app companies to focus on? Like this is now like I don't know if I'm like so sure about personal use AI apps. Like to me, I think the next obvious, well maybe not obvious, but the next kind of more tangible risk-adjusted return investment opportunity would be like enterprise-focused AI apps, right? What are your thoughts on that? Anything makes sense? No,
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's changing. So I'm going to counteract that a little bit on the personal side. It is kind of changing search for me on the personal side, though. Like I was looking at a landscaper, for instance, and usually I would Google and read reviews. This time I just went into the agent mode and I said, hey, I want you to find, I live in this area. This is the type of work I'm looking for. I want 4-star or higher reviews on Google or, Angie's List or whatever. Give me a list of landscapers who specialize in this type of work and give me some sample reviews. And it literally spit out, a handful. And then I went and just called those and, set up appointments. But that would have taken me a lot longer in the old days to do that. My daughter's obsessed with skincare, so she was wanting to research like the safety of ingredients in skincare. I can't pronounce.
I am too.
Yeah, exactly. I can't pronounce. I'm obsessed with hair care. I couldn't figure out how to like read these names, let alone tell her which ones are safe. So I took a picture of the label, put it in there. I said, give me a list of all the ingredients in any medical research that has suggested that they're harmful. And man, I spit it all out. Made me realize we're going back to making our own soap. But at the end of the day, it was pretty incredible. Like, so I think for personal use, it's changing search. And I think that's why you see these browsers and things changing from that Perplexity, the hype around Perplexity.
Right.
It's definitely changed search for me. And I don't know if you all would say, but I would imagine that Google searches, that verb, has gone down significantly since all these options became available.
Totally.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we were at the beach earlier, and there was a family speaking French, and I was kind of hearing what they were saying, but not really understanding it. And then it was blah, 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 OpenAI. Something, 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 OpenAI. Dun, 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 Perplexity. I'm like, okay, this is the new Facebook. You know, if we go back 20 years, everybody was talking about Facebook anywhere you went. What is this? Well, this is really, or 25 years, right? But this is the new, like, big thing. This is the turning point where Google is under threat for that, and this is definitely part of the reason why they have to change the idea of how they're working with Chrome and immediately integrate Gemini and try to keep that capture on, because now they have competition, and they haven't had competition since Yahoo, right? 30 years ago.
But listen, this is where I think you, like, Clint, you're onto something here, because I can see, like, for personal use, have this be more like AI app driven, like we have today. Like, there's an app store, so there's maybe AI agentic apps that can do certain tasks, and then, like, the person fits into the task. Whereas I think on the enterprise side, like, the AI fits into the enterprise, right? It's like a different entry point. So. Yeah. Like, you know, that's a much more consultative approach, I think, on the enterprise side, whereas perhaps on the personal use side, you're going to see, more, I suppose, just canned solutions, if you will, which would make sense, right? But that's a different investment approach, you know what I'm saying? Because, which I guess isn't too different than maybe what you've seen in the past, right? But I think maybe less SaaS, I suppose, on the enterprise side, and more like custom solutions, like what Palantir and those guys have been doing, which, and that would look, I think, dramatically different than what we've had historically, right, on the versus the enterprise and the personal side. So I don't know. I actually had an advisor today ask me to do an investment in an AI app. And I don't want to say that No, for a client, like a group of clients.
No,
and I don't want to tell
for like a personal use or institutional commercial.
It was, I won't say the name of the company because I think that's not nice to do that, right? But it was, I would say it was an enterprise focused app, but I didn't feel like the company had like a very strong moat. And I had actually heard their CEO talk, and he basically said, I asked him straight up, like, what's the moat of your company? And he goes, I just think this is too specific for OpenAI or Anthropic to focus on it. And I was like, oof, bro. Like, you got to come up with a better answer.
Yeah,
than that, you know what I mean?
The CEO of Zoom might have said the same thing, or
that's just like, yep. I mean, I hope you're right. You know what I mean? It was like kind of one of those things, but I don't want to say I convinced them not to do it, but I was like, look, this is just to be straight up. Like, if OpenAI decides to do this company could be a zero. And I think there's it's like a 50-50 chance that could happen. So, like, I'm just not there yet on AI apps.
Yeah, that's the risk to all these apps. Like, do I think they're going to be prolific? Absolutely. But man, there's a lot of
who's going to be the winner?
There's a lot of risk downside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how do you establish a moat in such a fast changing environment, especially when compute is everything?
I'm just not there yet. I'm just not there yet. It's still picks and shovels all day long for me. Well, speaking of picks and shovels, fella, Groq closed their round this summer, and it was big, man. So they raised the amount that they're raising, $750 million, $6.9 billion post money. It's already trading. It was trading up already in the secondary market from the initial announcement back in July. But I have them at $8.1 billion now in valuation. But this round they had BlackRock, Neuberger Berman, Deutsche Bank, right? Deutsche Telekom, excuse me, right? D1 Ultimate. Like, this is like a great list of investors. So, and then they also announced 2 million developers are using Groq Cloud, right? 2 million developers. That's an insane amount of developers. So I don't know. I don't want to say like I love this company, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because I feel like I talk about it all the time. But Nick, any thoughts on just Groq and how they stack up? I mean, this is as far as I mean. I know there's Cerebus out there, kind of thinking more broadly about like the broader semiconductor space, but I don't hear a lot about any other semiconductor companies outside of Groq and Cerebus in the private side, right?
Sure.
Am I missing a few?
I will have to, well, to break some news, look back at our site in a month, and we should be able to find a lot more comparable contacts or companies to existing private companies, which will be really,
Okay.
really fun, or sleeves within public companies that have similar assets.
Ooh.
So that will be
Wow.
fun.
Very cool.
Spoiler alert. But no, I think this is where Groq is shining, and it's a support mechanism for everything that everyone wants to do. I think you talk about inference a fair bit and how important that is. But I think the numbers within the secondary space tell a pretty good story. You know, the news is
Right.
breaking where this is coming, and immediately the market is reactive and overcompensating to a certain extent. And that's very different than some of what we've seen. And I know we've brought up Revolut quite a bit, very different company, but Revolut announces a round that sounds sensationalist, and it actually takes a little bit of time for that round to come around, but then it eventually does. You know, Groq puts that out there, or other AI driven companies put that out there, and it's a lot faster. There's much more reactive,
Right.
and there's a lot more excitement. And also, this isn't like a 10 or 20 or $50 billion company. You know,
That's
so
right.
there's to have as much excitement and as many users, and actually very, high agency users on a platform like that means a lot. You know, it means a lot more than an individual user that's a low cost or low
Yeah.
kind of throughput like a Figma or something. You know, so
Yeah.
no, I think it's certainly got a lot of room to run, and it could also be an acquisition target until it gets big enough that it won't be gobbled up. And it sounds
Right.
like, they want to take in as much capital as possible to keep that momentum and kind of get through. But
Right.
a great CEO once said, you got to be at least 15 billion so no one takes you out. And I think that sounded like an astronomical sum, but for names like this, it sounds reasonable.
For sure. So Clint, these guys, to Nick's point, they've got a huge customer base. They're growing really fast, right? They have this round was a 13.8x revenue multiple, right? Which I thought was low. But like, what's your take on that? On kind of the valuation? I also think anything sub $10 billion right now in this company is a gift, right? But like, what's your take? What's your thought on it, right? On a perhaps more macro level.
I mean, this company gives me the fastest path to a 10 plus X return in the space, in my opinion. It still sticks with the kind of necessary infrastructure to make it a real thing, right? I mean, AI is wonderful. When you think about the leap it's giving humanity and the potential productivity boom, but there's some significant hurdles and bottlenecks that we have to deal with. And in order to make it a reality, you have to invest heavily in infrastructure. We talked about this at length. I think the government's going to have to print a ton of money to put into infrastructure in the space. And when you think about inference and that necessity for scale, Groq makes a ton of sense. So yeah, I think this is a great diversifier for people holding NVIDIA or other chip names in the public markets. I think it's great valuation from my perspective, and I think it's got a tremendous amount of upside.
Okay, listen, let's hit on. I mean, I sometimes I wonder if I should just even bring up Groq anymore because I feel like I talk about it at least like every like second or third podcast, and right. Anyway, so Figure. Let's talk. Figure closed their round, right? So they had a $39 billion post money valuation. They raised $1 billion. Okay, and like this, that's early. That's a big valuation for a company that has no product in the marketplace and no revenue, right? But Brookfield Asset Management came in, NVIDIA came in, and Intel Capital came in, right? They're inside VC arm. I mean, those are like pretty respectable group of investors, right? Which I think, gives some credence to this $39 billion valuation. So that's what I wanted to hit on with you guys. It is trading down a little bit in the secondary, so you can get it at a discount, right, to that $39 billion round. So maybe we could talk about that, because there's not too many stocks that are trading at a discount. But maybe Nick, like, what do you think about just humanoid robotics as an asset class, right? Because there's like 1X, right, which doesn't have a lot of secondary trading. Figures obviously out there. There's like Clone Robotics, there's Aptronics, right? There's a couple really interesting companies that are out in the space. But like I don't know. We live in Manhattan, right? I haven't seen a humanoid robot walking down the street yet, right? So like, what do you think of this space, humanoid robotics? What do you think of this round closing up and kind of doing so well?
Well, I know we're segueing away from a company that's decently under 10 billion. That probably is more important in a lot of ways, like currently. But humanoid robots will be a thing. Everything that we saw in the Jetsons with Dorothy running around, getting everything ready.
Oh yeah.
But I think we've discussed in the past, and it could look the next incarnation of how this looks could be very, very different. So it doesn't have to look like us. It could be a dog that comes and brings your medication or breakfast in the morning, but gets your coffee going. But also there's an integrated smart home. So at what point does the barrier between a smart home or an AI assistant or all the things that don't need to look like a human, hence the humanoid aspect, outweigh something that is not? It's purpose built for as many things as possible, but it's never going to necessarily do everything to the best degree. But then all of a sudden, I mean, you look around the world and it's starting to, or continuing to be, a pretty dangerous place. So you've got, these robo wolves that were presented in the Chinese military parade. Those are already at play in Ukraine right now. So sorry, that's like a stream of consciousness here. I actually do think there's a place in the world for humanoid robots. I just don't know if they will come on as fast as the other technologies that they are coming to represent. If they're here to help us and help out with regular things, they're already probably at play in an Amazon warehouse moving carts and cranes around. But there's so many things of the interconnected home that are probably going to replace a humanoid robot. So yeah, I'm less on the hype of it, so I can understand why it's trading at a discount right now. But I'm supportive. Like, I love hearing the news of them running marathons and races and stuff like that. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yes. Clint, what do you think? Do you kind of second Nick there, or have a different thought about humanoids?
Yeah, second Nick. Not a big fan of these valuations on these companies, and I think Evan, to speak from his past, he's not a big fan of these hardware companies too. And I think the valuation is just more of a reflection of how much capital they have to raise and have had to raise to get to where they are, more so than a depiction of value here. Like, at the end of the day, this is just because these are capital intensive businesses. And look, I know we've got a lot of money floating around. There's a lot of money chasing AI in general. But I could think of a lot of other places I'd rather put my money than humanoid robots at this time. Doesn't mean it's not real. Doesn't mean Figure's not a great company. Doesn't mean they're not doing really cool stuff. But we need AI to be able to scale and get heavily customized. We need a lot of power. We need a lot of things before this becomes a reality, an everyday reality. So I'd rather bet on those things now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a company that definitely, if you invested in Figure at this price point, this is going to be one of those where, like, if we do in fact have billions of humanoid robots on the planet, and Figure has 500 million, a billion of these on the planet, and the company's worth $1 trillion, people are like, I can't believe that you got in to Figure at 39 in 2005. You're a genius, right? You know what I mean? It'd be that's what this company is. I think you're definitely believing in the theme that there's going to be billions of these robots, and that's why you're making the investment right now. So, but to Nick's point, like, it's like, when does that happen? like you kind of go through the mental cycles of like thinking through like step by step on how that would all come together, and it's interesting because you almost be like, all right, the Henry Fords of the world, you just pull something out there that's like so inexpensive that everyone gets one, right? Maybe it's like EVs, right? But EVs I think have a different application because there were already gas powered cars that you could buy, right? Like there were no cars; it was a horse and buggy versus a car, right? So those are kind of very different things. So like it just, it's interesting to think if like people would find utility in this. I mean, obviously, like I see businesses finding utility in it, right? That there's some obvious things there. You could replace some humans in factories and whatnot.
Let's do the Ford analogy. I think Ford is worth less than 10 billion more than Figure is right now. What's going to be around in 50 years? Probably something's going to boast Figure, like what's it, Boston Dynamics or something like this.
Dynamics,
maybe they'll win. But I mean, for Ford to be worth a few billion more than Figure, that's a tough bet. Like if one of them is going to go 5x, it's probably Figure. But at the same time, like that's so hard to grasp. Like 5x, that's the value of Coca-Cola or something. So
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. Like I talked to my wife the other day. I'm like, hey, when these start to come out, do you want to get one? Right. Right.
You're trying to find your own replacement.
You have to eat your own cooking. Job. You got to eat your own cooking, right?
Yeah.
Come on. Like I'm telling people we should invest in these things because they're going to be real. Like you got to do it. You got to buy one. Right. So it's kind of like, she's like, well, what would it do? And I'm like, I don't know yet.
Whatever
we got to wait and see. Right.
Until it doesn't.
I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the Unitree video. There was a new Unitree video that I saw this morning, and they were literally kicking the shit out of this robot. These guys, like there were 4 guys running in, like punching it, kicking it, throwing it on the ground, and the robot like pops right back up. It was incredible. Right?
We're saying this with a smile now, but 10 years time, we're dead. We are.
Did y'all see what was floating around? Did you see what was floating around? I'm sitting here trying to find it. I can't find it. I thought I bookmarked it. Maybe I just saved it as a picture. But there was this thing floating around on X, and it was talking about what AI is going to kill. Like what's going to be dead. Did y'all see that?
No. Tell me.
So I'm going to pull up. It's pretty awesome. I just have so the first thing was what dies and how it happens. First one was driving, right? And it said 2028 to 2030, driving's done. Second one was doctors. So it says AI diagnoses better, prescribes perfectly, never forgets symptoms. MDs become liability managers, 2027 to 2032. But I'm going to skip to the last one, which has to do with the figure, or 2 down, which has to do with figure. AI controlled drones and robots fight wars. So soldiers are what dies. And now you have AI controlled drones and robots that fight wars. Humans become collateral damage, not combatants. I thought that was pretty cool. So maybe that's interesting. And when you think about, this has a lot of macro effects, right? You think about deglobalization, and we're facing a demographic crisis across the world. No one's facing it worse than China, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lost 100 million people. Their populations, because of the one-child policy, slated to be cut in half by 2030. That's significant.
That's a huge problem.
Well, look at robots coming like right on time.
Solution.
Like all of a sudden, humanoid robots make a lot of sense. And
listen, there's no joke. There is something to that. I think, Clint. Like it's like a necessary.
Yeah.
It's like a societal requirement, right? That we need these things to work.
Society fights immigration, right? Which is just so baffling. We need immigration, but we need it in a responsible fashion. So I can understand why people throw up when, immigration just becomes just let them all in versus let's come up with a methodical fashion to acclimate.
Right.
So I get the, both sides of the argument, but we absolutely have to have immigration. Our population's not growing here domestically. Globally, Europe, same thing. So
that's the harsh answer. But a few people acknowledge that fact. But this is why I think humanoid robots are actually going to start to, look, I'm a big believer. I'm a capitalist. I'm a big believer that there's always an economic driver behind literally almost everything, right? Including people not having children. I think that's also economic driven, right? So, but I don't want to get into that because I'll start talking forever on that. But like, I do think like the adoption of humanoid robots will be an economic driven thing, and in households too, right? And like, it will be less expensive to have a humanoid robot take care of your elderly parent than it will be having a human nurse.
Yeah.
So like, there will be like these decision points that people can make. Oh, you know, my elderly parent can stay in their home, which they really want to do.
20 grand one time versus, 20 grand a month.
And
like, this is the stuff I think people like situations will present themselves like this, of course. And like, companies will be founded that will have a, elder care humanoid robot. You know what I mean?
Think about it for a nanny. Like, it could perform CPR, first aid with perfection. Like 100%. One of the other things on that document was talking about surgeons. Like, surgeons, they already use robotic surgery where a doctor's sitting in the hospital, professional, and just saying, "Hey, let me monitor it."
Right.
And it does it without tremor, with perfection.
Right.
Less risk of infection, all kinds of benefits for the patient. Imagine having a nanny that's a humanoid robot that can read the symptoms of the child perfectly, call help if needed, like not relying on the judgment of a teenager who's scrolling on Instagram.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
100%.
And that combined with the idea of, always remembering, I remember that the kid is allergic to this, and it's a different babysitter next time, so she doesn't remember, or the elderly care, they swap nurses in and out just because it's a 24-hour rotation. It's so beneficial, and anyone familiar with like any sort of elderly abuse, you could fix that pretty damn quick.
But guys, I can even see things where like
an alarm system, a perfect alarm system.
Yeah.
Right.
But this is what I'm saying. I think there's going to be like, there'll be use, like, do I get an alarm system or do I get one of these? Right. Like, I think there will be use cases that will make it obvious that this is a robot is a better solution than the current, than the alternative, or maybe the historical solution has been. And that's when these things will start to get adopted. And I don't think it's going to take, I'm definitely going to get one. Yeah, I'm more about like which one do I get? It's like you know what I mean? Like, I definitely, and it's gonna be like, my wife wants me to get a dog and like have a dog come around. Like, no, you know what? I think I'm gonna hold out for that humanoid robot. Just bring that thing around with me everywhere I go.
I would do
you know what I mean?
The robot. I would actually do the robot dog of all things.
The robot dog.
That's the way to do it.
Like a nice compromise, right? A robot dog.
Absolutely, it's great to your family. But if someone breaks into your house,
you know what, Nick, you're not wrong.
Here's my question. Like, I need a robot. I don't want to pay for a seat for it. Like, how do I fly with my robot?
You check it, goes under the seat for you, man.
Yeah, man. They get one that
it becomes your suitcase.
One that folds up. It comes in a suitcase. Put in the overhead bin.
Robot that can carry my suitcases and everything. This is going to be. I'm on top of this. I'm not investing.
No, Clint. You know what you do? You just get the robot. I'm sure there'll be like a rental car. You'll just get a rental robot, right? And you just log into the rental robot
when you get to wherever you're going. Gig economy, where you know how people rent their own cars now. I forget what the app was. It Toro or something like that.
Right? Yeah, Toro. Yeah.
We'll rent a robot. You can rent your robot out.
I'm telling you, man.
We might be going too far. We're saying we don't think there's a investment promise and figure at these rates.
Oh no. I do. Just as long as you underwrite it. I do think there's an investment in figure. You just have to underwrite it the right way. You have to believe that this is going to happen.
It's hard to get to 10x for me on that company as fast as I can get to 10x on Groq.
You have to believe that there's going to be billions of these on the planet, and then $39 billion makes sense.
Clint, you hit on such a good point about how capital intensive it is. They can't afford to be raising it at lower valuations.
I think that's fair. And it's the same thing with the AI companies, but the AI platform companies.
But with $200 billion, you're like, come on.
Yeah. But with this, you have to have such incredible foresight, or really just build up the bravado and confidence in and around those valuations. Because if you haven't mapped it out right, and you have to keep raising at higher and higher valuations, and then if the staff that are really backing it, have that equity, and then all of a sudden they're getting over diluted. It's a super, super delicate balance when you're operating with no revenue for many, many years and have to look forward 10 and 20 years. So it's
you're not wrong.
Very, very impressive.
They got to start driving revenue.
What they're doing.
They got to find a couple use cases. You're right, Nick. They got to get some use cases. They got to get some robots out in the market, right? Start driving some revenue. That's going to be. I mean, even the robots in China don't really have use cases yet, right? I mean, there's like 5 or 6 really great like robotics companies there, but they're not quite where I think they're not quite like towards monetization,
right?
So. Yeah, like in the next couple of years, you're gonna have to see some like robots with some actual real use cases that can scale, and there's a huge target addressable market for this stuff to like continue to make sense. But I do think we're going to get there for what it's worth.
Agreed.
And I do think that we're going to have like billions of these on the planet for the reason that Clint said. It's because population is going down everywhere, and I think
totally behind that. Like we are environmental terrorists, right, to this planet. And, having 1 kid and 1 robot, that's not bad. And then we figure out how to repair and make it a better planet for that 1 kid or 2 kids, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be weird I will say this. I do hope people have children. I just don't, because I don't want to have like 8 billion robots on the planet and like 2 billion humans.
You're just looking around there playing catch in the backyard. That's my son.
Yeah, that would be disappointing, right? I'd rather see like, I don't know if you guys watch Foundation. I think it's on Apple TV, right? But it's an Isaac Asimov book, if I believe. I might be speaking inappropriately, so hopefully no one gets salty with me on this. But they're like, humans have conquered the universe, right? Kind of thing, or the galaxy. And there's trillions of humans spread out across all these different planets. Like, I hope that's in the cards for us, right? Versus the robots being 3/4 of the population.
And I thought we went an entire episode without talking about Elon Musk or SpaceX, but to get interplanetary, we gotta give the man some credit.
You can't ever get away from him. You can't get away from the guy. So, all right, fellas. Well, this was a good one. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for this.
You got it.
See you guys.
All right, man. Okay, I'll talk to you
later.
Okay, cheers.